Hello everybody, I'm Eternal Flame, and here today I would like to take another crack at trying to figure out Yuji's backstory, because we know quite a lot, and I think that I finally might be able to piece together a much clearer picture of Yuji's backstory than we already currently know. However, before we even get into this video, be sure to like and subscribe to make content like this. We've got a lot more theories on the way, and let's start this theory. So up first, the first thing I feel the need to talk about is the death paintings and why they're going to be extremely important to this theory. The death paintings are made to be a combination of human and curse, a hybrid between the two of them. However, all 9 of them were a completely failed experiment, only being awakened very recently by Mahito's idol transfiguration in the modern era, with them going as far back as 150 years because Choso was noted to be the oldest of the brothers. However, there's only ever been 2 people who have ever been described to be similar to these in the past, which those 2 people are Sukuna himself and Tengen. This is due to the fact Tengen is described to be a fusion as both, but leaning closer to a cursed spirit, and that Kenjaku directly says Tengen is basically doing an impersonation of Sukuna. Now, we also know Kenjaku had decently high expectations for these experiments, however, we don't exactly know the reason as to why he had these expectations. Now, I don't think it was just as simple as Kenjaku wanted to solve his boredom, or at least I think that was a part of it, but I don't think that was the only reason he had expectations. I think that the death paintings were just the start, or at least one of Kenjaku's many attempts to recreate the phenomena that created Sukuna himself. In my opinion, I don't think Sukuna was created naturally, mainly because of the fact there's just something that feels completely odd about Sukuna, like he shouldn't exist, about the fact that he's called the perfect form of Jujutsu sorcery because of his 4 arms and 2 faces, as well as his extra mouth. Stack that with the fact that Sukuna basically confirms to Kashimo that he was the one to attain his own strength because he says he was born as an unwanted child, which leans much closer to the direction that Sukuna had to make himself strong rather than Sukuna being born strong himself. I believe Sukuna did something to make himself incredibly strong that was considered a forbidden action that I did talk about in another video that was Sukuna's backstory video, so go check that out when you're done here. But I basically believe Sukuna did something that was extremely forbidden in the past in order to get as strong as he was now. What I believe Kenjaku was using the death paintings for was to try and recreate this very thing that made Sukuna very powerful, or at least create something that would be considered a suitable vessel for Sukuna. Because we do know Kenjaku was at least trying to create a vessel for Sukuna in order to set everything off as a trigger. For example, that was the entire purpose of Yuji Itadori. Kenjaku is the direct reason why Yuji ended up swallowing the finger, because Yuji was capable of being a vessel for Sukuna. Now, I don't believe that Sukuna would have stayed inside of Yuji forever because Yuji has an incredibly potent soul, one that is very capable of suppressing Sukuna's soul no matter what. Even when several fingers are put into him rapidly, Yuji's soul would eventually be able to overpower them, and just Yuji's soul is absurdly powerful in its actual natural strength. On top of that, there's also something else in the past that I've called out as being really weird that we know about so well, which is the fact that it is a 1 in a million chance that a soul is powerful enough to actually contain Sukuna, which there are only 2 real ways to actually be able to figure that out. Which the first way is being able to actually see the level of soul strength within the person. However, to be able to do that, that means you need to be at least a vessel of something or capable of viewing souls, which not many characters are capable of doing in the modern era, let alone in the past where we have no idea what these characters were capable of. However, there is a second way, which is trial and error. Which trial and error is actually the reason I believe they figured out how rare it is for a soul to be capable of suppressing Sukuna. After all, with the knowledge and fact that it's so incredibly rare for people to even be able to see the soul in Jujutsu Kaisen, let alone be able to see souls on such a level where they can tell which soul is stronger and which soul is weaker, on top of the fact that they use such specific wording like 1 in a million chance, it leans much closer to trial and error being the cause of it rather than actually being things like just being able to see which soul is stronger and which soul is weaker. Now, before my previous theory, I didn't really have that much evidence that Sukuna had actually incarnated in the past. Mainly just evidence going around of the characters know way too much about how Sukuna functions for him not to have been incarnated in the past and have been contained in a proper vessel previously, just they didn't get the chance to actually properly kill him. However, there is a panel that actually does give a little bit more credence to this probably being the fact. In Chapter 2, it's directly stated by Sukuna, it doesn't matter what era it is, you guys are always a pain, you stupid Jujutsu sorcerers. Now, in the past, I interpreted that as only talking about this era and the Heian era. However, I don't think that is the case anymore. because that statement more so implies Sukuna has likely been incarnated in the past as well, and the Jujutsu sorcerers of that past era was also a pain for him as well. On top of the fact that we know Kenjaku has directly been doing experiments across history, such as Yuji Itadori himself, in order to build a perfect vessel for Sukuna. Or at least we were told to be a perfect vessel for Sukuna. However, I don't actually believe that this is the case anymore. I believe the real reason he was trying to do this was in order to recreate Sukuna, and that Yuji was the end final product of this. After all, we know directly there is a connection between Yuji and Sukuna, when Kenjaku directly states as long as that thing continues to coexist with Sukuna, the cycle of curses will never end. He will become the Eye of the Storm for the new era. Stack that with the fact as well Sukuna directly recognizes Yuji as someone from back then. There's just quite a bit that connects Yuji to Sukuna, and I believe that intentionally was Kenjaku trying to reincarnate one or several of the people who are capable of controlling Sukuna and suppressing Sukuna as a vessel into one body in order to make one incredibly powerful soul that would always be capable of suppressing Sukuna, that soul being Yuji Itadori. Furthermore, we also know it's possible for a body to overpower a soul completely. After all, when Toji's body came back, his body was able to overpower the other person's soul who was trying to control him that I do not remember the name of at the current time. Furthermore, it would also explain why his body is so incredibly built different for two reasons. Number one, it would have to be strong enough to even suppress these souls to begin with, or at least have a subconscious strength that is being held back, and then a secondary ability of the souls themselves being present in the body that amplifies the body even further. Because the soul is the body and your soul is able to amplify the physical strength of the body, if you have a strong enough soul, your body gets stronger in the process. Look at Mahito, for example, and his instant spirit body of distorted killing form. Furthermore, we also know something else that is extremely interesting about this fight that I don't think many people are talking about. Sukuna did something for Kenjaku, and there was a specific reason Kenjaku decided not to do anything until December 24th, and it wasn't out of fear for Gojo, because Kenjaku directly says to Sukuna that even if Gojo wasn't present, he wouldn't have done anything until today, which means there was a very specific reason that he waited to act until today. And I think that reason has to do specifically with Yuji Itadori, and that Yuji Itadori's full process will be completed as an experiment today, where he would be able to test himself against Sukuna to become the Eye of the Storm for the new era. I think he was specifically waiting for this day in order for Yuji to awaken and be reborn, in order for him to become the second Sukuna in specific. After all, we know for a long while Kenjaku was doing his best to try and recreate Sukuna, or try and make a suitable vessel for Sukuna to live within, whether it's through Yuji Itadori being the suitable vessel for Sukuna to reawaken in, or the death painting looms all having very similar traits to that of Sukuna. I think Kenjaku was trying his best to recreate the phenomena that was Sukuna. Now you might also be wondering, how could Kenjaku even get over 1 million bodies and be able to experiment on Sukuna without him going unnoticed for so incredibly long? After all, they were able to find out about Narutoshi Kamo and his experiments as him instead, but they weren't able to find out as about this 1 in a million experimentation thing? And my simple answer is a fact that we know about Kenjaku that we find out in the Culling games, that Kenjaku has direct control over one of the higher-up parties, and the higher-up in general. So, what if Kenjaku was using his power over the higher-ups and Jujutsu sorcerers in general to create stronger sorcerers and stronger souls over time in order to attempt to create a perfect vessel for Sukuna in order to recreate Ryomen Sukuna himself? And that all leads back to Yuji Itadori and this specific day that he fights against Sukuna. I think in this specific day is the only day Yuji can end up becoming a similar being to that of Sukuna, half cursed spirit and half human. And as Sukuna continues to battle Yuji, Yuji will continue to grow and grow, showing more and more of the original experiment that Kenjaku intended for him to become the Eye of the Storm of the new era, for them to continue on the cycle of curses, because so long as Yuji and Sukuna train against each other, cursed energy itself will continue to evolve. Basically, what I am saying is this: Kenjaku's true purpose for Yuji Itadori was for Yuji to grow and grow off of Sukuna, and for Yuji and Sukuna to grow off of each other. As a result of that, the more and more they battled, the stronger and stronger they got. Jujutsu sorcery is an exponential growth type of thing, so only way for them to really grow is against each other and constantly fighting against each other, in a constant stalemate and a cycle of curses that will never end. However, as a result of them continually getting stronger, curses around the world will get stronger, and even more than that, sorcerers will continue to be born. Other people will continue to be born with curse energy getting stronger and stronger, and in that way Kenjaku would have won, beginning a new cycle of the optimization of cursed energy between these two immortal beings at basically the center of it all that will continue to fight each other for all of eternity, which is something Sukuna would be incredibly satisfied by as well. After all, Sukuna enjoys battle, he lives for battle, and he lives to eventually die one day, and Yuji wants to kill Sukuna no matter what. No matter what happens to him, he wants Sukuna dead. And this would be able to spawn an incredibly powerful rivalry that will optimize curse energy as a whole for everybody, in order to make curses as a whole get stronger, and people as a whole get stronger as a result to meet those curses that are meeting their end. Optimizing curse energy and ultimately giving Kenjaku the win as his final experimentation that he planned all along. However, that's just my insane theory on Yuji's true purpose in the narrative and Yuji's true past. I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section down below. I'm going to see y'all later. Peace out.